Hello, and welcome to Joshua Austin's Screencast-O-Matic. Today I will be working on Excel homework number 4, that's pivot tables. The date is 3/19/2015, which is portrayed here in the bottom left corner. What I'm going to do is create these pivot tables given by these two questions presented here. Number 1 asks or explains, create a pivot table showing the average price per house in each city and include the number of houses sold in the next column. Question number 2 states, create a pivot table, I believe that's supposed to say showing the number of homes in each city that sold for $1 million or more. So what I would normally do here is click right here on this tab to open up the information that is given, which is all right here. And what I would do is go File, Download As, go to Microsoft Excel. However, I already have this information downloaded and expressed right here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to Insert, Pivot Table, and this neat little chart right here will come up, and it'll ask, would you like to select a table arrange or use an external data source? If I wanted to use an external data source, what I could do is go onto the internet and find some other information that I may need to create this pivot table. And then the next one asks or states, choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. And that could either be in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. For instance, I could use this Excel worksheet that I'm currently working in. However, there are already a lot of cells going on right here. I believe there's approximately 8,000 or so, and that would just be a lot of information to put on this one Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep everything as it is and click OK, and there it is. There's my pivot table. So go back to this question real quick, and it asks, create a pivot table, it states, create a pivot table showing the average price per house in each city and include the number of houses sold in the next column. So the first thing I'm going to do is show the average price per house in each city. So we're going to go back to this Excel sheet. I'm going to drag city down to row labels, and it's pretty neat because here you see these 5 cities, which are all portrayed right here. And it's pretty interesting because you see in this column right here all of these cities. And in reality there's only 5, but you have all of this material to look through, and it would just be extremely time consuming to look through all 8,053 cells as they are portrayed here in this this spreadsheet. So back to the pivot table. Here are the 5 cities, and the next question, the rest of the statement is show the average price per house. So what I'm going to do is drag sales price down here to values, and if you see, this says sum of sales price, which is actually the sum of all of the real estate that has been sold in each one of these counties, and this is kind of what it all accumulated to. However, that's not correct because it asks for the average price per house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here to values, correct? And I'm going to go to value field settings, and I'm going to click right here on average. But I want to make one slight change, because if you look at these numbers, this is it's kind of hard to read, and I don't know what 72691400 amounts to right off the bat. Now that I can kind of break it down in my mind, I see that it says 72,691,400, but I would like that to look more presentable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to number format. I'm going to click on currency, because now it'll be portrayed as money or as currency, and it will look much more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So we have currency, we have average, and voila, there it is. Atlantic Beach, 338,000. Neptune Beach, 311,000. Jacksonville Beach 271,000, Jacksonville 206,000, and Baldwin at 135,000. And you can see that these are the average prices from the greatest to the least, and which is pretty understandable. You can see that the three top prices are all located near the beach, and then following that is Jacksonville, which is also a pretty popular area. So now what we're going to do, the next part of that question was, of that statement was, include the number of houses sold in the next column. And the purpose of this is to show us, how realistic or how popular is it for someone to, purchase houses in these areas. We're kind of trying to get an idea, of how many houses are sold in these areas, within a given time period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on sales price again, and I'm going to drag it down to values. And again, it's presented as a sum of sales price. I'm going to go here to value field settings, and instead of going to average this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to count. So now it's going to count all of the sales for each one of these cities, and then it's going to give me the grand total down here. And if you look, for the last one I clicked on currency, but we're not going to do that for this one because we're not looking for a price, we're trying to look for a general amount. So we're going to click on general. Click OK, OK, and there it is. And this is pretty interesting because if you look, Baldwin only had two real estate areas sold within the given time period. But then when you look at Atlantic Beach with 215, and Jacksonville Beach at 367, and Neptune Beach at 118, these are all very, very popular areas. However, the price of living in these areas is a little bit higher, so not many people can really afford to live in this area. But again, it's a pretty high number to consider for all these houses, so it's not bad. But then when you look at Jacksonville at 7,350, it kind of makes more sense because Jacksonville is a very popular area. It's a pretty popular city when you think of an Atlanta or a Houston. This is an area where it's highly populated. A lot of people tend to go here or live here for that matter, and it's pretty reasonable price area. It's pretty average. Most people can afford around $206,000 for a house, give or take. So yeah, so it all makes some pretty good sense. So that completes question number 1. So now we're going to go on to question number 2, which is to create a pivot table with the number of homes in each city that sold for $1 million or more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out all this other information, and I'm going to, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drag city down to row labels, right? Then I'm going to drag sales price down, and what you see is you see all of these numbers. These are all of the sales in each one of these cities. But what I want to do real quick, just to make it look more appealing, I'm going to go to number format, and like I did before, I'm going to go to currency so I can see it all as numbers. And you can see here's some in the millions, here's some in the 2 millions, and Baldwin, if you actually go up, Baldwin had none in the millions, right? Jacksonville, which has a lot, obviously, because we saw how many houses are sold in that area. And as we scroll, so what we're going to do is we're going to identify how many were sold for $1 million or more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go label filters, and I'm going to go greater than 1 million. I'm going to click OK. Voila. These are all of the real estate properties that were sold for $1 million or more in each area. So as you can see, Baldwin is no longer in here because, as I showed you before, there's none in that area that were sold for over $1 million. But the question asks, show the number of homes in each city that were sold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the actual number without forcing anyone to count all of this, because again, when you look at Jacksonville, that's still a lot of, so there's actually a lot of houses to sit here and count. It would take me an extra 30 seconds that I really would not want to spend counting all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on sales price and I'm going to drag it to values, and this again is the sum of all of these numbers, which is the same numbers, but this is not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is value, field settings, and again we're going to go count. Okay? When we go count, it's going to give me a tally right here of all of the places that were sold for over $1 million, and it's going to give me a number, and then in each section it's going to give me the total number for that area. So we're going to go here and we're going to go OK. Voila, there it is. Here's the count. So what I'm going to do is, now that you see this and you see all of these numbers, I'm going to go ahead and minimize them so that we can get a good idea of how many were sold for over $1 million in each area. And as you can see, there were 6 in Atlantic Beach, there were 44 in Jacksonville, 5 in Jacksonville Beach, and 3 in Neptune Beach. And the grand total of 58. So there were 58 homes sold for over $1 million in this given area, and Baldwin was excused from this because none were sold for over $1 million. So that completes my homework assignment for Excel homework number 4, pivot tables for MIS Spring Blogspot for Professor Sistrunk's class. Thank you so much for your time, and have a good night.